I'm Jansen.
I'm Sky.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the weekly pop-up podcast where we talk about all things pop culture, except Sean, who likes to walk away as we do our intro. But that is all right. He comes back. He returns.
You won me back.
There it is. This week we're talking about a number of things because we're going to talk about kind of the whole year. Just a nice wrap-up, some of the favorite things that we watched this year, movies, television, etc. Really the gambit. I know that I've got some things, Sky's got some things, Sean's got some things, and it doesn't have to be things that came out this year necessarily. And in fact, half of my list did not come out this year. It's just things I watched for the first time this year that I was exposed to the first time this year. Sky and Sean might have went with some different rules, but that was kind of what I did for me. So I've got several things that I really, really enjoyed. And if you haven't seen, maybe you could check out. I know Sky and Sean, the reason we enjoy doing this is because all three of our tastes are a little bit different, or we've all seen a few different things. So hopefully folks listening will get one or two things they can be, oh, I was hoping to check that out. So first of all, how many things do you guys have?
Let me look at my list because not a ton. I try to keep it simple. I think I have for each, so I broke it down into like 4-ish categories. I did movie, TV show, and then I did a category for heard for like albums, and then I threw in a podcast category because I have 2 podcasts that are narrative podcasts that I wanted to bring up. Because
is it the weekly pop-up podcast?
It is not. It is not the weekly pop-up podcast.
Did it even make your top list?
Wow.
It's the Scrubs podcast.
It's not the Scrubs podcast, actually.
Wow.
But yeah. So that's what I have. And on each thing, I have like 2 or 3 things. So not necessarily a top 10, but just some of my favorites. I found it really hard to like, even though we spent so much time this year at home not doing anything, I found it hard to like keep track of what I had watched. And then also I just watched a lot of stuff comfort stuff that I had already seen before, rewatched some stuff. So that was.
Listen, man, Netflix put out this little 2-minute song kind of wrapping up all the stuff that they put out this year that people watched. And it was really depressing because probably like half of these, and this is like a 2-minute song, he's just listing off titles essentially, or plays on words. I probably saw like half of those, and I was like, wow, I watched way too many things this year. I was like, yeah, I saw that. Oh, I saw that. Oh, yeah, I watched that. So it was quite a reckoning there. So
how many items do you have, Jansen?
I've only got 5, but they're just movies and TV shows. Okay. And honestly, it was just kind of the top 5 things off my head. I did a similar thing with a friend of ours, Real One, and I only had 4, and I was like, oh wait, I'll watch this other thing. So I could go down the rabbit hole, for so long, because if I really think about it, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch this or that. So I just kind of the first 5 things that came to my head that I really enjoyed, that I think other people would enjoy is what I went with.
Yeah. So Sky, how about you? How many things you got?
Too many.
Too many. All right. Yeah. So I think the best thing to do would probably just go person by person, right? Just let each other kind of explain their list, and then we'll ask questions and move on to the next one. So let's start with Jansen.
Oh, we're going to start with me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I started, like I said, I had a couple that are from this year, or maybe a new season came out this year and I had never watched it. These are in no particular order. Just again, kind of off the top of my head. But one that I watched really recently that lived up to the hype because the Emmys kind of made me take the plunge was Succession. Man, that is a great show. It is. I'm so excited for season 3. I could watch season 1 and 2 over again right now with no problem.
You've already binged the first 2 seasons?
Well, I mean, this is weeks ago, Sky. Weeks ago.
Gosh.
I mean, it's like 20 hours. Come on. Light stuff, Sky.
Rookie stuff.
Work a full-time dad in there and full-time job.
That's only 20 lunch breaks.
That's 20 lunch breaks. The lunch break is clutch. The lunch break to watch things is clutch.
Maybe like 21. lunch
Yeah,
breaks and stuff.
absolutely. It's
Spread 'em
not
out.
straight up. And then like sometimes in the morning when I'm getting stuff ready, I'll have something on. There's always time. If you just take those little increments in the day, you'll knock it out. Succession though, seriously, it was hilarious. It's timely. It's intense. There's great drama, and it's very similar to another show on my list because of the humor in it. It's not played to be humorous. The actors aren't cracking jokes. It's
They're
just
just
the way things.
jerks.
Yes, they're just jerks. The way things are written, the way they might crack on each other, but it's not like a joke for the audience. I just think it's really smart. And again, just a load of fun. So Succession would be first. Next up would be something that just recently also came out on on HBO Max, and that's the Fresh Prince reunion. I recently watched that, and honestly, I haven't seen many reunion shows, but I don't know how it could get much better because you could have a lot of different takes on reunion shows. It could be another episode, just like 10 years later or 20 years later, where's everybody at? You can have the cast just come back. But the way that they intertwined, and it's what I think made the show so great, which really brought back a nostalgia factor because I just remember watching all the time. But what made the reunion so great was how they wove in both hilarity and heart just so well because obviously James Avery, who was an icon on the show, Uncle Phil, passed away. So a lot of it was dedicated to remembering him, as it should be, because he was, Will Smith says, without him on the set, it just wouldn't have been the same. Will wouldn't have been the same, etc. They brought back the original Aunt Viv, which Will hadn't talked to in like 20 years. So just a lot of good, like heartfelt moments, but at the same time, they're showing you these hilarious clips from the show that are still hold up today. And so I just thought it was a great way to kind of wrap up 2020 because again, it just came out like a month ago, and it's like a quick watch, like 47 minutes or like an hour 10, somewhere in that range, like right around an hour. Which is perfect because I feel like a reunion show could also go for 3 hours, and you're like, all right, I care. I wanted to see where you guys are at, but I don't care that much. So that was again, like, I mean, I was like holding back tears during the thing because of them, and James Avery and everything. It was great. The third thing, again, these are in no particular order. Let's go with a movie. Goodfellas. I have been on a big like mob.
Wait, you hadn't seen Goodfellas
Never seen
before this
Goodfellas.
year?
No, man.
Oh my
Before
god,
like 3 weeks ago, maybe a
Wow.
month ago.
that's wild.
It's a
So
great
great.
first time watch.
So great.
They're having a sequel. They're making a sequel to it. It's
Are
not.
they?
Yeah, it's not Scorsese, but yeah, it's like what happened to Henry Hill and his wife after, like once they get into
Witness protection.
witness protection.
So
And
great.
the story is still wild.
I
Do
know
they have Ray Liotta coming back?
I don't know.
he's
I don't
old.
I
know.
would be surprised. He's old.
Yeah, but he's still acting though. He's still doing
He
stuff.
is. He's still doing stuff.
It's just so good. I can see why it's so beloved. Because sometimes you watch some movies, and for me, they don't hold up all the time. People just rave about things, and it's like, well, that was okay, but it wasn't.
Did you catch Samuel L. Jackson in there?
Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah,
Yes, Sean?
he's very brief.
Have you seen The Usual Suspects?
No.
A good one too.
I also plan to watch. Oh, I put it on my list because it's on Amazon Prime, which I found out, again, like a month ago that we have. So I've been trying to catch up on there. The Boys. I should put that on there because that's really great. You should watch The Boys. That would go on my list. Again, 2 seasons. But I put on there Reservoir Dogs because I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I don't know if this is possible. Do you know anything about The Usual Suspects?
Oh,
Oh,
that's gonna be a treat.
dude. You just need to record your face.
I don't like my face that much. That's why we do a podcast.
For like the last, I don't know, 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
First, you have
just
to
like-
tell me where I can stream it.
Just
Great performances.
just FaceTime us or something. I mean, and we'll record it, or
I'll do what I can.
We'll Zoom one, and because there's
Wait.
just a particular moment I don't want to spoil, but it does take place in the last 15 minutes, and I do want to see because watching that movie for the first time is the best way to watch that movie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Oh, and Primal Fear too would be a good one
hmm
with Norton and Richard Gere. But did you see The Departed, Jansen?
Yes, I have seen that.
Okay.
recently,
So great. A
or you
couple
had
years
seen it
ago.
already? Okay.
No, a couple years ago for the first time.
Okay.
I lived in Harrisonburg, so I guess it had to be 3 years ago. Love that. That was great.
Now, I got a
Go
question
ahead.
real quick
Yes.
about Goodfellas.
Yes.
What was your reaction when Joe Pesci entered that room, that empty
Oh
room?
man, I didn't see it coming. I can't lie to you. I was like, this guy's really annoying, and somebody should kill him, but I did not see it coming that way. But
Happens fast.
it
Yeah, it
does
does.
happen so fast, just bang, dead. And then their reaction is also so good.
Yeah.
He's so upset. De Niro's so upset about it. So yes, it lived up. I think I gave it 5 stars. I believe because it's
It's a
long, but it
5-star
doesn't
movie.
feel long. It doesn't feel it, man. Like, these days, honestly, if you're over 2 hours, I think we've discussed it. It needs to be for a reason. And I think that one's like 2:15. And the whole time I'm like, I'm in. I'm so in. Also in that vein, though, as I said, on a big kick, what kind of made me watch Goodfellas was The Sopranos. I watched that for the first time this year. And I've been listening to their podcast. If you want a podcast to listen to, I mean, some of them get super long. The one I'm on right now is like 3 hours long. But 2 of the stars of The Sopranos are rewatching it for the first time in like 20 years. It's very entertaining. But The Sopranos, as I was speaking about Succession, it does the same thing. It's really smart writing to where, I mean, these people are merciless killers and do some horrible things. And yet the other half of the time that they're not doing that, you're just laughing because the situations or the little one-off lines are hilarious. And it's just, it's a show about family. It's a show about the mob, obviously. But another one of those things that could have really been a letdown because I've just heard it hyped up for so long. It started the golden age of television and, all these things. It's some of the best episodes of TV. And I was like, maybe. So I'll watch it. And honestly, first season, I was texting back and forth with Tim Buckley, who we both know and who's been on the podcast before. And he had told me, watch this show. And I was kind of watching it on and off for the first season. And after the first season, I just said, this is what I'm going to watch right now. I'm just going to watch it straight through. And after that, it was just really great. Not that the first season wasn't great. I just wasn't watching it as consistently. Like I'd go a couple weeks without watching. But would definitely recommend, again, if we're in quarantine for even longer, Lord knows at this point how long we're going to be here. You got time to watch. I mean, it's an investment.
There's a movie coming out next year too.
7 seasons. Yes, a prequel, which I'm really excited about because I think the original creator is involved, which makes me excited. The fact that Scorsese's not involved with Goodfellas makes me a little wary.
I don't think he's involved. He may
Yeah.
executive produce, but I know that, it's going to be completely different.
But I would definitely recommend that. And then I'm going to end it on a high note, a happier note than Death of Sopranos and the Death of Goodfellas. Also, what an ending in Sopranos. I did know that it was controversial. I think I might have known what ended up happening, but to see it happen, I didn't know it was going to happen right then. That was quite
How do you feel
interesting to
about
see.
it?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with most endings, I feel like. And I'm okay with it because it's just up to interpretation. And if that's the way they're going to do it, that's the way they're going to do it. I understand why people would be upset, especially at the time. Now, if I'm watching, it might be different if I'm not streaming this straight through. But if I've spent like 8 to 10 years of my life, and then I might feel a little different. But the way that they did it, there weren't huge loose ends to tie up. I don't think, if I recall correctly, it's been a few months, but it wasn't like Tony was, on his way to do something. And I
Mhm.
thought that I thought it was very poetic the way it ended. So I liked it. And then lastly, though, as I said, a high note, a happy note was Hamilton. Watched it on Disney Plus right near the start of the year, and it has stuck with me ever since. It fits all of your categories, Sean, except maybe podcast. But to this day, in our house, we sing Hamilton constantly. It's always on. Sophie loves it. It's the only thing that calms her down. If you have a crying baby, she loves Hamilton.
Babies love Hamilton.
Babies love Hamilton. And it's a tremendous watch. It's an incredible feat. I hope that they do more plays like that, more musicals like that, because it was really fun. Like they filmed it the right way. You felt like you were there, if not even better, because if you realistically have tickets to Hamilton, one, you've paid an exorbitant amount of money to go, and you're probably 40 rows back. So this, your front row, you can hear everything. You got subtitles if you want them. So I just thought they did a really good job, and it was such a great way to, again, if we're going to be in quarantine, it's a great way to kind of start it.
Yeah. I do want to say, Jansen, you said you saw it towards the beginning of the year. That was July. So that's how long this year has felt.
Are you sure it wasn't like January?
Yeah,
Because it
I'm
feels
sure.
like in my head I watched it like maybe the first week of February.
No, the first week of February, we were all hyped for that Spiral trailer that came out, and
Mhm.
never got to see it.
We'll
Have
get to
we
see it
been
in
doing
2030.
this that long?
Since February.
Mhm.
Wow, look at us.
Look at us, guys.
Mm.
They said we couldn't do it.
That
we've
feels
aged
like
20 years.
3 years ago.
Yeah, it does. So I'll go next. That's all right. Let
Yeah.
Sky go.
Did my
last.
list suffice to you guys? Is that
Oh
okay?
yeah, that sounds great. I mean, the Successions, The Sopranos, two things I really want to watch. I know the time commitment that The Sopranos is going to take, and I just keep pushing it off. Like,
That
it's just a big
understandable.
daunting task. Hamilton, great musical. I agree. I think they should do more musical that way. I think it's a super smart way, and I think we will see that stuff happen. Lin-Manuel Miranda had the foresight to film it with the original crew before they dispersed. So that was super, super smart. And Goodfellas is a great movie. So
Mhm.
there's not much I can say about that.
And add the boys in there just because recency
Boys.
bias.
Also, The Boys.
I finished it like on Friday, but I loved it.
All right, so I broke my list down. I have a little more, but it's a little more specific. In terms of movies, the two new movies I saw this year that I really enjoyed. The first one was *The Five Bloods*, the Spike Lee joint from Netflix.
I didn't know you watched that.
I really, really liked it. I thought it was a really unique movie. Just very, very good. I enjoy most of Spike Lee's movies, and I really thought that he had a nice sort of flavor on the Vietnam War, and I really liked they did this thing in the movie. Instead of recasting the actors, like the younger selves of actors, they put the old guys in the flashback. So you weren't like de-aging them, you weren't doing anything special. You just saw the old version step in and do the fighting as the young man. I thought that was like a super cool, like it really just kept you in the movie because it just felt like that's how memories work. Like you don't really see yourself in your memories. And so I thought that was super cool. The other movie, I loved Mank. I just,
That was really good.
I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the dialogue was maybe the best that Fincher has ever had outside of The Social Network.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and for him to take control mostly of the dialogue, I think it's probably the best effort he put forward because I think that's where he struggles sometimes. I love the homages. I love the cinematography. Chanson told me to review it on Letterboxd, and I did. And then I went and I read reviews, and a lot of people were like, I'm so sick and tired of filmmakers who think they can just take a digital camera and turn it black and white. And I did some research. They actually got a very unique red camera, a monochromatic red camera to film in black and white.
Mhm.
And a lot of the issue comes from the fact that your internet service makes it digital. Like streaming the movie will give it a digitized effect that you can't help. So it really bums me out that I couldn't go see that in theaters and see the crisp black and white. But I just thought it was so well done.
Mhm.
Especially, with my on again, off again love for Citizen Kane that's been just driven into me by my media studies major. It was great. For
Well,
TV
I
shows,
was really happy I watched Citizen Kane like a month or two before I saw Mank, because
I-
otherwise I would have been like, I don't understand this at all.
yeah,
It would have been okay, but there would have been
yeah,
no references or anything. I wouldn't have any idea what was
I
really going
agree. I
on.
don't think you need to see Citizen Kane, but it's certainly. I mean, the two movies just speak to each other essentially. They're like this two sides of the same coin essentially.
Mhm.
Um, so for TV shows, I put Mando season 2 just because of recency bias. I really enjoyed it.
That
Um,
recency bias is so real.
he's a bitch. My favorite thing that I saw new in terms of TV this year was Ted Lasso, the Apple Plus series. I
Man,
just
you
thought it
love
was
that.
so
You
funny.
love
It
it.
was so good, guys. It's so good. It's by Bill Lawrence, who created Scrubs, one of my favorite shows of all time. Jason Sudeikis was great in it. It's like super heartfelt, but it's also like witty and funny. I really enjoyed it. I
It was
couldn't
really good. I mean,
couldn't
I
suggest
also
that
think it's
enough.
very good.
Um, I put The Last Dance on here because it was like a docu
That's
series,
true.
so I wasn't sure if it was a TV show or a movie, but I just thought it was a really good documentary. And then thanks to Jansen, I put Dark on here
Mm.
because it wasn't a it was kind of new this year, but
Pew, pew, pew,
he's
pew.
dabbing he's
Pew,
dabbing
pew,
and
pew, pew,
peeling over
pew.
here. Um, uh, I really enjoyed Dark. I thought it was one of the best written things I'd ever seen.
I pitched it
Just
to my wife again today, just out of the blue.
Megan, I
I
know
was like,
you're listening. You got to watch it.
what do
Gotta
you want to
watch
watch? And she was like, whatever. I said, what about Dark? And she was like, no. And I said,
it. Yeah,
one day. I said,
yeah.
one day.
If you enjoyed books, you can read the subtitles, and it's essentially a book.
Mhm.
That's my pitch for people who can't get over the subtitles.
Sky, did you
For
finish it?
No,
I didn't think so.
but I
great though.
will. I want
It's
to.
so good.
I just,
It's so good.
I
You
haven't.
hit. It's one of those shows like Jansen with Sopranos. You hit like a certain point after the first season where it's just like, okay, I'm all in. Like I'm just gonna chug through this thing now because I can't not stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm sure it's great. I mean, I watched the first episode. I really enjoyed it, but I just got
Mhm.
caught up in all the other stuff.
yeah, and we'll hear about Sky's other stuff. He has so much, I'm sure.
So much.
And in terms of heard musically, Mac Miller's Circles, love that album this year. I also liked Open Mike Eagles, Anime, Trauma, and Divorce. Just some rap albums to listen to, put on, maybe after you're done listening to Christmas music. And then finally, these two podcasts that I kind of discovered just almost randomly. I had found them when I decorated the outside of my house for Christmas. The first one, they're both by Marvel and Stitcher. The
Ooh, I
first
think I
one
know one of them.
is called Marvels. Super cool. It is a Fantastic Four based story. It's based off a comic book. Um, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like 9 episodes maybe, and they're like 30 minutes long. It's a narrative story and set in like the 60s. It's really cool. Just like really enjoyed listening to it. And the other one that I discovered after that is Wolverine. One of he has 2 seasons of stories. One is like The Long Night and the other is The Lost Trail. Just really amazing sound design on these podcasts.
You're so immersed.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
listened to
you're so
half
immersed.
of Wolverine, I think, like at
Mhm.
work, and I stopped because I'm like, no, I really want to like listen to this.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I was outside, for 5 hours doing decorations, and then driving to Jansen's house to watch football. And it was just I couldn't get over the sound design, like everything moving from the mixing from one ear to the other ear, and just the environments. I mean, they go from Alaska in the first season to New Orleans in the second, and it's just and it's a good story. Like it's a genuinely interesting story, and
Yeah.
it's made me want to seek out other narrative podcasts because I just didn't think about that being
Yeah.
an option for this media form, is just getting stories told that aren't crime junkies or true life stories like Dr. Death. But so that was my list. I do have.
Have you listened to season 2 of Dr. Death?
I haven't listened to season 2 of Dr. Death. I found
great.
out recently that they had a season 2.
If you like Dr. Death, I've got another one for you. But continue, Sean.
I do want to just mention two of the things that I was most disappointed by this year, and the first of which was definitely Westworld.
I saw it coming.
Was definitely Westworld. And again, I mean, we've talked that thing to death, but you know, they just had a certain standard, and I think it just personally let me down. And the second thing I was most disappointed about was the fact that I could not see Tenet in a movie theater, and I don't know if I ever will. I mean, it's out in theaters. I could go now, maybe, but it's just I want to see it in a packed theater with everybody reacting at the same time, and that's just not going to happen in the foreseeable future, and that's like super disappointing because I love Christopher Nolan's movies on the big screen. That's like my favorite way to watch them, and I didn't get a chance to do that this year. So those were my two big disappointments, and the fact that we didn't get to see Spiral. I thought that trailer was sick, and then here we are waiting until the fall of 2021.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy that we were reviewing these trailers and we never got them.
Yeah, the Wes Anderson movie, same thing. I mean, just who knows? Who knows when we'll ever see these movies?
I know. Wes Anderson, you know, he was already going to have a tough time, you know, in theaters anyway with his movies. And now it's like he just needs to get up with a network, you know, like he needs to get up with a streaming service. Like just put all of his movies on Netflix.
Crackle.
Yeah.
Crackle.
All right. But that's my list, guys. Any thoughts?
A good list.
It's a good list. I like it's wide. I also really enjoyed several of the things that you mentioned. Mank was very enjoyable.
Still need to see Mank.
For someone who is an aspiring cinephile, but is far from that at this point. I enjoyed it a lot. So I can only imagine for people who really love movies, love the history of them, love that time, because there's so much politics that also go into that movie.
Shout out to Bill Nye.
Shout out to Upton Sinclair, bro. I was like, oh, I know that name. I only knew him from the book. I didn't realize he ran for governor and all that. So very interesting. But yeah, no, good list.
I really appreciate that Westworld was on there. I was going to put it on my list of disappointments, but season 2 already disappointed me, so I had low expectations.
No. Right. Just eked in over season 2. I think it was better than.
I guess I'm disappointed that the series as a whole is more than likely dead to me, but you know, we'll see. They could do that thing where they drop a season 4 trailer, and I'm like, oh, you know, but who knows?
Oh, Bernard might actually be in the show this year.
Oh my God.
Just wild.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
So apologies. My list is going to be a little longer. I can shorten it if you'd like, but they're very, I'll be brief.
Hit us with the full list.
So for movies, I tried to keep it in 2020. So one movie that came out was The Lodge. It's a horror film. Alicia Silverstone is in it, which was like her big comeback. And it's sets place in Christmas time, and they're stuck in this cabin, and because of a snowstorm, and you know, of course, things go a little weird. It's a horror film, and it's just it's about isolation, and there's like cult stuff that's going on with it as well. It's wonderful. I don't want to reveal too much, but if you get the chance, I highly recommend it. I think it's on
What's
Hulu.
it on?
I think it's on Hulu, or it's on Amazon Prime or Hulu. I'm not sure. And then there was another one that I watched recently called The Rental. It's Dave Franco's directorial debut, and it's a horror film, and it is incredible. Really enjoyed it. I was really surprised because it's Dave Franco. You know, I was not expecting that from him.
Little Franco, man.
It's you know, two couples that go to a Airbnb, and things go wrong, and I'll leave it at that. And it becomes a really great thriller.
Did either of you watch Black Bear yet?
Not yet.
I want to. It seemed up your alley. It seemed like a movie for you guys. So that's why I'd wondered.
No, I want to. Yeah. Bad Boys for Life. You know, I actually had a really good time with that movie. I thought they did a great job at bringing the series back to life. And I could see them doing another one. Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn did not get enough attention when it came out. I really hope that changes. You know, I want people to see it because it was really great. And then my personal favorite for the year, I'm thinking of Ending Things. I think it's probably my favorite film of the year. If it doesn't win, you know, something at the Oscars, I'll be very disappointed. I watched it recently, Bill and Ted Face the Music. I loved the first two original Bill and Ted's.
Mhm.
So this one, it really, it was the nice innocence that I think 2020 needs, and I really loved it. Um, Color Out of Space. It's a Nicolas Cage science fiction horror film
Is the one
by
where his face is just red, or is that like Mandy?
that's Mandy.
That's
Okay.
Mandy.
Yeah, but if you liked Mandy, this is great too. It's Lovecraftian, so if you like H.P. Lovecraft stuff, it's great. Borat, subsequent movie film, great stuff. Really enjoyed that this year.
Very nice.
Probably my favorite horror film of the year, though, was The Invisible Man. I think that was just amazing, and I really want people to check it out. Host also made my list of the best movies of 2020. Short and sweet, And then there's an anthology horror called The Mortuary Collection. I love anthologies. This one has a great social commentary throughout, so really had a great time with it. Those are my top 20, or those are my top movies of 2020. So now shows.
I probably should have put Lovecraft on there because I really enjoyed it. But
Oh yeah, Lovecraft Country.
Very good.
So shows. Now, Dave. It's probably the best comedy of 2020.
This is
Missing
why
one.
you should not just make a list off things off the top of your head because you forget things
Dude,
like Dave.
Dave should have been on my list. That's a crime against humanity.
Tiger King. Great documentary. Had a lot of fun with it. I Am Not Okay With This. It's a coming of age comedy on Netflix. It didn't get a second season, which I was really bummed about, but it's really great.
I feel like that's your greatest dream, Sky.
It needs a second season if they build to a second season. But if they don't, just stop. If you check off all the boxes and you sever all the ties, cool. But if you keep it going, no. The Haunting of Bly Manor, favorite show of the year. It was just amazing. Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet. You can check that out on Apple. It's awesome. Solar Opposites, Justin Roiland's new show. Great stuff. It's on Hulu.
What's that?
If you like Rick and Morty, it's very similar. It's without Dan Harmon, though, so you're kind of missing the heart that Rick and Morty brings. But there is still like some emotional depth to Solar Opposites, but it's really just a show about aliens trying to make it on Earth.
Okay.
And it's great.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Curb Your Enthusiasm Season 10, I thought was amazing. The Mandalorian Season 2, really great stuff. What We Do in the Shadows is probably also Season 2. It's in my top list. It was amazing. And then there's a new show that came on Amazon Prime. It originally premiered on YouTube Premium back in 2019. It's called Wayne. And if you have Amazon Prime, I highly recommend you check out Wayne because it is one of my favorites right now, and I am really, really digging it.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, those are my shows. Music. Now, according to Spotify, this is my top 5, so I will read that to you.
I like it. Little
Run the
Spotify rap.
Jewels. Run the Jewels, RTJ4. Best album of the year, in my opinion. I thought it was it's excellent. I have never listened to an album as much as I've listened to that album. Cage the Elephant, Social Cues came out in 2019, but I've been burning that out too. Churches in general, I've just been listening to Churches quite a bit. Eminem released 2 albums this year, Music to Be Murdered By, Side 1 and Side 2. I've enjoyed Side 1 quite a bit. And then AWOL Nation, Angel Miners and the Lightning Riders. Big fan of that album. And then games. I want to talk about my games here.
Gotta talk
Last
about
of
the
Us,
games.
Part 2,
Yep.
number 1.
Yep.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Ghost of Tsushima, baby.
Perfect year for games. And then disappointments. And I'm going to get a little bit more into this. Tenet was a disappointment for me.
My wife's parents, I wasn't sure, but my wife's parents said awful. I asked her how it was, and her mother said awful. I said, well, that seems harsh. And I saw your review, and it does seem extremely convoluted and involved.
It's not awful. It's not awful.
I don't think it's awful, probably. No, but like
the bar has been set so high for Nolan, right? And if he doesn't reach that bar, he's he's graded ridiculously unfairly, right? Because I mean, he has that reputation. So if he misses the mark, we're obviously going to see it. But if this was from someone else, I'd be like, wow, this was actually really good. But knowing that it's from Nolan, it's just, and the sound design, I don't think I've watched a movie where there's been such poor sound design.
Oh, I heard that too. Like you can't hear them talking, can you?
I had to watch it with subtitles.
I watch everything with subtitles, but
right. But I mean, this was like
you
a
shouldn't
force.
have
Like you
to.
have to.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
He's had some trouble with that though before, with getting
Right.
too gimmicky or playful with.
How does that happen?
I noticed it first with Dark Knight Rises, right?
Mm-hmm.
With
He
Bane.
does that with Bane, yeah.
Yeah, Bane's kind of tough.
And
Well,
then in
hard to understand.
Dunkirk,
yeah, hard to hear. Well, I just think it has to do with his soundscapes, right? It's the noises, it's the soundtrack, it's the everything else in the scene that's supposed to be like building,
right?
And the dialogue just isn't enough to go over that. And maybe it's him compensating because he's never had like tremendous dialogue in any of his films,
right?
So maybe that's just what he's compensating for. But no, that's troublesome to me. But I mean, I still want to
please
see
watch it. I want to hear your thoughts. But
I can't wait to watch it.
And then my other disappointment was a movie called Peninsula. I don't know if you guys ever watched Train to Busan. It's a South Korean zombie film. It's amazing. Like, okay, take Snowpiercer, get rid of the whole, like, we gotta, the world's ending because of Ice Age or whatever, and just put it with zombies on a train. And it is actually, it's really good. It's not a comedy. Like, this is really good stuff. So there was like some high expectations. Like this movie has like a 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's great. So the expectations for it were really high. And Peninsula, it just became like this Hollywood zombie film that would have blown us away 20 years ago, with like Dawn of the Dead coming out, but now it's like we've seen this and it became so generic and so by the numbers that, I mean, Train to Busan had a guy wrap bandages around his hands because that was the only thing he had to fight zombies, right? And like that is something that you see in an international film. You don't see that in Hollywood films. So like with this one, it just became so cliche and so just uninspired, and it really bummed me out. I didn't even finish it, and I was so upset.
That's pretty big.
But, yeah, that's my longer list.
Your games, absolutely agree. Ghost of Tsushima, so good. I 100%ed it. First game I've ever done that in my life. It was phenomenal. Last of Us 2, although it went in a strange direction to start, we were texting about it. The wrap up is just so wonderful.
And the time away from it, right? Like the time away from it really helps put the game into perspective.
Well, Luke was talking with us about it the other day, and I think Luke took it harder than all of us. He really didn't like that second third of the game. But the other day he was like, "Oh, I love the game," and I reminded him of the second third. He was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't love that part, but I loved the game." Like you said, the time away lets you appreciate the full story.
Yeah.
Sky, I noticed that Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't on your list.
Yeah. So fun
Did you
story.
Get it? Did you
I
get
did.
It?
Fun story. I bought it.
Did you get a refund?
No. I haven't even
because he has a physical copy. If he had a digital copy, he could have returned it already easily.
But I'm not going to. And here's why. Because eventually this game will be patched, right? And it's going to be playable. As far as I know, they have a patch coming early January.
Why not return it and get your money and then they let them fix it and then buy it again?
Because I don't want to go through that process.
If you had digital, Sky, if you bought it digitally, it'd be such an easy process.
I feel him. I probably wouldn't get the refund, and I would wait. But I don't have a PS5 or a 4, so it's my point.
You know what angers me though is like all these trolls online. They're like, "Oh, you're complaining." People that are complaining about the graphics being poor and all that stuff. But like, they're like, "Oh, you're complaining because of the game that came out on 7-year-old hardware." But it's like at the same time, you have games like Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us 2.
Yes.
And they looked amazing.
Yes.
They looked beautiful. God of War came out, 3 years ago? Horizon Zero Dawn came out, 5 years ago? Those games look magnificent. and then you see this game and it looks like PlayStation 1 graphics. From what
It
I've
doesn't
seen.
make any sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But no,
it's
I
wild.
agree. Like there's no excuse. I get it's a bigger game. Okay, if it runs a little bit slower, that's one thing. But the graphics should not degrade so drastically because it's an older system. Again, first of all, the next gen literally came out a month ago.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you could have it in your hands a month ago tops. It's not like you're playing on a PlayStation 2 here.
Right.
Like it should games that they're putting out for the next 3 years really should be playable, should be should look good, if not great. Again, Ghost of Tsushima was the prettiest game I've ever played in my life. It's the best, looking game. Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man Morales, like all these games look wonderful. That I just think it's I guess it's that it got rushed. They crunched so hard.
No,
but,
they didn't focus on the old gen. They focused only on
and
new
that's true
gen. That
too.
was what
That's
they
true.
said. Yeah.
That's true.
But I mean, it would be a disappointment. But I honestly, like, as soon as I saw the memes and I saw the videos, I installed it and then I uninstalled it. Right? Because I'm
big
like,
is
I'm
it?
not gonna play it. I'm gonna set it here on this shelf. When it's ready to be played, I'll put it in.
How big was
I
it?
have it's just like what was it? Last of Us 2 had 2 discs, right?
I don't know. I don't get the discs.
Oh, that's right, because you're a punk. But yeah, no, I think it had 2. So it's, a couple of install discs.
Before we wrap up, what are you guys looking forward to next year?
I got the PlayStation 5.
Obviously, Jason.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Chomping at the bit.
HBO Max. HBO
Yeah,
Max.
looking
is what
forward
I'm
to that
looking forward
too.
to.
That's
Yeah.
a good point.
I mean, there
Yeah.
are, the only movie I think that Warner Brothers is doing where it's like, I kind of want to see that in theaters. It's Godzilla. The rest of them, like, I'm happy with watching at home.
I
right?
want to see Dune in theaters.
I mean, Dune in theaters would be cool, but I mean, also, yeah, Dune would be cool. It looks like it's going to be a shot-for-shot remake, though, right?
I
Does
think
look
the
like that.
trailer was intended that way for sure.
But I wonder if the whole movie is going to be a shot-for-shot remake.
I haven't
if
seen the
that's the
original,
case-
so it's fine.
I guess. I don't know. It's almost like that. It's almost like a cover band covering songs the exact same way with no style. Like, that's going to upset me.
I think it'll be.
I'm sure it'll be stylistic. I guess my thing I'm really excited for Loki. I'm more so than any other like known project out there. Maybe just because I haven't seen, I don't know. If I had to pick one project that I can't wait to watch, it's Loki. It just looks cool, looks kind of weird, looks fun. And yeah, that should be cool. What do you guys think was the biggest story this year that wasn't COVID?
Is the inauguration off limits?
Well, we don't talk about that here.
I mean, I know we're not talking about politics, but I mean, in terms of story, like that
The
was
election.
probably the biggest
that makes
story.
sense. That makes
right?
sense. The election, huge story. Yeah.
Like, not
That's
one
what
way or the other, of course, but yeah, I mean, just the
Yeah.
election.
I mean, I think that we kind of already touched it. I think the HBO Max thing was probably the biggest. Like, I mean, again, it's recency bias, and there could be a 100 other things, but just the way this year has kind of built to that announcement.
Yeah.
I think if you talk HBO Max overall, that's the answer.
Mhm.
One, did it launch this year? It was
Yes,
this
it
year,
did.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, thank God. Sean, when did we watch Knives Out? Was that this year? Was that last
No.
year?
That was
That
last
was at
year.
the very, very.
Okay.
It could have been.
You sure we didn't see it in
Almost-
like January?
It could have been almost a year ago today, or like in the very early parts of January.
Okay. I just wanted to know. But if you talk about just story overall, I mean, I think you have HBO Max debuting, the not great branding of HBO Max when they already have HBO Now and HBO Go and HBO. That also continues. You then have the Warner Brothers stuff about HBO Max. You had the Roku stuff and the Amazon Fire Stick. So their rollout, both good and bad and maybe awful now, for some people like filmmakers, I think has been the most continuing story that has been popping up through COVID. So it probably is that, even if we're thinking of one aspect of it.
Mhm.
Well, real fast, I do want to know, what are you guys' thoughts on HBO Max and like having, uh, you know, their slate of movies? Do you think it's going to hurt filmmakers? Do you think it's going to benefit them? What do you think?
Filmmakers, I think it'll hurt.
I disagree.
I disagree
I
too. Yeah.
I think it hurts filmmakers who already have projects made, right? Like, especially the bigger ones.
Like Dune.
Well, yeah, the bigger filmmakers, because most of the time directors take either points or percentage of the first weekend gross. And now that that's not that's why everyone's upset, right? Because you're taking money out of their pockets, and there's nothing in their contracts now that can give them any sort of money. And then when you start talking about, well, how many, it's, and I made this I think I said this in a previous podcast, it's like the whole streaming music thing.
Yep.
Like, how many streams is $1?
Mm-hmm.
When do you start doing that? And that's all confusing and new, and that's going to take some time to figure out. But I think that we had talked all year about this was going to push movies in that direction. I don't think it'll be nearly as extreme as HBO Max or in Warner has done. I think that you'd still get movies at least exclusively in theaters for a month, especially like Wonder Woman or Godzilla or Dune, like those big, like, come see it
Yeah.
on the big screen with your family and friends. I
But,
think those aren't going away. What I
go ahead.
what I think helps filmmakers is the space in the movie theater was getting so narrow. You're getting like 8 theaters for an Endgame and like 2 theaters for that romantic comedy. So now what you're allowing is a library of completely fresh content that people are hungry for, as we saw during the pandemic, that'll give filmmakers a better chance to get their thing made and get it out there and get discovered. I think there will be more chances taken on a film for Netflix or HBO Max exclusively without having to, because they just won't have to spend the huge amounts of money to get it marketed and get it in a theater and pay to get it distributed. They can now handle all that themselves. So I think that helps filmmakers in the grand scheme of things. But it's really, I think the next few years is going to be, I think we'll see another strike because of the money aspect of how much do I get if I get a movie that has 90 million streams in the first 24 hours and becomes the talk of the town and is on every news station and every Facebook post. Like, that should mean something, because it's not getting the money in the theaters because people get it at home.
Well, and as I think I said I think it was last week, maybe the week before, as a consumer, for me and for many families, it's great. Like, I'd spend a few extra dollars upgrading my TV or my sound bar, or put a subwoofer in, or whatever the case is, instead of spending at least 25 at this point just for me and my wife, let alone if you have a kid or you buy food. Or, I mean, I can grill outside, I can come inside and watch on my own TV whatever movie I want. And if I also have the benefit of, if they're doing them at the same time and you're not completely taking it away from the theaters for those big movies, then great. I can go watch that one. The 2 movies a year that I need to see in theaters, I'll go watch those. But the others, even if it is a shorter window, because normally to get to streaming, I mean, we're talking months. I mean, at least and that's
3.
to rent it. That's to rent it. But HBO Max is saying same day, you don't have to rent it. It's just you can stream it. So even if that is a month, great. I'm getting it for free. I don't have to rent it from Redbox, and it's there in a month. So again, from the consumer side, it's a really great thing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that'll do it. You guys, anything else?
We have an
2021,
Instagram.
more animated stuff, or are we going to see live action stuff continue?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just depends. I thought maybe we'll see more animated stuff because that stuff was being made in the back half of 2020 and it'll be released in 2021. Maybe we'll see like a little baby boom ish type thing. I don't know if it's going to be long haul though, because we've got vaccines.
Yeah.
Apparently in California, film and TV crews are essential personnel, so they've just been filming. So I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it won't be as bad as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, it's been great, man.
But yeah, that was it.
All right. Well, so how about you take us home, Jansen, for the last time in 2020?
Do you want this episode to come out in 2020?
Yeah, probably, right? At least by the 31st.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We can make it happen. All right. We have all our social medias. Just search for Weekly Pop-Up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've got one of those now.
I didn't know we had one of those.
Yeah, we got one of those. I've been working. I've been working. We have YouTube. We obviously, like I said, Facebook, Twitter. We have a podcast. If you didn't know, you were listening to it. We'd love a rating. We'd love a review. Share it with folks that you think might like it. We're going to have some fun segments, I think, coming up in 2021. We've got some fun ideas, I think, on the horizon for some different kinds of episodes. And yeah, I'm excited for 2021. Just guess what, guys? Get me the heck out of 2020.
Couldn't come fast enough.
Couldn't come fast enough. Get me out of 2020. We'll see you in 2021. We will be taking a little break, obviously, over the Christmas holiday, New Year. Everyone have a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you in the new year of 2021.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's a movie reference because we're a movie podcast and music and TV shows and video games.